Hey everyone, Hurricane Liz here, and in this video, I'm going to talk more about merch. After all, that's what you guys want, so let's go ahead and jump in there. Now keep in mind, I am a $1 million Amazon seller. However, I have dabbled in merch quite a bit. I got to as high as $10,000 a month in sales. And as I said before, in my Amazon business, I made millions and millions of dollars. So the strategies that I am teaching you here are the actual strategies that I use in my actual business. And today, I'm going to teach you the best strategy of all: how to outsource all the work. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of people want that simplified, but it's just plain and simple. How to not do all the work yourself. If you're an entrepreneur out there, chances are that you do a lot of things yourself because you feel like you're saving money, but the reality is you're becoming more a slave to your actual job than anything else. So you need to learn how to delegate and outsource the entire process. And the best place to actually outsource this is from overseas. So today we're gonna look at my step-by-step strategy for getting all your merch designs created overseas for as little as $2 per design. So you don't wanna miss this, and we're gonna jump straight into screen share. All right, so I'm here at a site called onlinejobs.ph, and you'll see that I'm actually logged in. And as I said before, us being entrepreneurs, we usually end up working like dogs. Night and day, we don't even have time to enjoy ourselves. But the thing that you must get over, the hump that you must jump over, is being able to delegate. So it's often difficult for a young entrepreneur to actually do this because they think they can do everything best. And while most of the time it is true, there's a lot of instances where you don't know shit about shit. So trust me when I say this, start to learn and delegate from an early age, and you will have an easy career moving forward. Now, you don't want to get too laid back and go do stupid shit while you delegate. You want to make sure that you delegate to smart people, and you want to make sure that you know how to do the job first before you give it to anybody else. So I do highly recommend that you learn a little bit about, in this case, we're going to outsource t-shirt design. I recommend you mess around with Photoshop a little bit. You mess around with Canva or Merch Informer, whatever tool you want to use to design t-shirts, and you figure it out a little bit yourself so you kind of have an idea of what process the actual employee is going through. Now, don't start to have to want to learn computer programming or stuff like that in order to make sure they're doing a good job. The results will speak for themselves. So the site that I like to go to hire is onlinejobs.ph. And this is the site once you jump into it. Like if I log out of this account, it kind of looks like this. And it shows that there are literally a ton of job seekers and a ton of employers looking for these people that are very skilled. Now, keep in mind, the Philippines is an excellent nation. A lot of people go to college. A lot of people have fantastic degrees. But because of the fact that their economy and their Filipino, I don't even know what it's called because I never even pay them. That's the crazy part about it. Is worth a lot less than the dollar. You can really get very qualified people that do excellent jobs. Like my project manager's from the Philippines, and she's phenomenal. She's probably better than some USA project managers, and she works for $500 a actual month. So again, lots of people using them. You can read about them when you go to their actual website. But once you get in there, let me show you what it looks like and what step one is going to be. So truly, step one of this whole process is for you to have a process. So what do I mean by that? If you do not have it written down step by step in an S.O.P, and I'm going to put that term up here, S.O.P, become familiar with it, whether you're designing t-shirts, merch shirts, or doing Amazon FBA, or even Shopify. S.O.P stands for Standard Operating Procedure. And what that means is, imagine you are an EMT, right? EMTs have certain protocols that they have to go through every single person laid out on the ground when they hit an area where an ambulance is needed. It's a fact, right? So they have to follow this protocol. The same should be true of your employees. If not, it's just a lazy way of doing things. So if we don't have this protocol, how do we come about it? Well, one of the very best ways to do this, and truth be told, I have never created a single S.O.P in my entire life. How have I done this? I'm about to give you the actual gold here, so you want to make sure you pay close attention to this. I've outsourced the process. So what do I mean by this? Well, what I will do for every single product or project that I have is I will record a video, and I use a site called Loom because it's free to record your screen share. So if I go to loom.com, it is a site where you install an app, and you can see I have a bunch of different things that I've been doing. Here is Keepa. It goes to show that I'm actually doing Amazon here while I'm sitting around. Here's an MRI report. Here's a bunch of Amazon related things, right? What I do is I record a short video or a long video for my employees using Loom, which is free, and I show them step by step what I'm doing. And then I take that video, I send it to them, and I have them create an SOP. So I'm going to show you guys an example of an SOP and what it should look like. All right, so here is an SOP, and I'm not going to show the rest of the actual pictures because this is kind of like a top secret SOP, but you'll see that it includes texts, which are typically steps, as well as pictures of what they'd have to do. So for example, if you have a step-by-step system for them to find a t-shirt design, you want to be able to show them what that step-by-step system is, whether it's through writing and pictures and or video, as I talked about before. And I'm going to show you one more tool that we use to actually organize our SOPs, and that tool is called sweetprocess.com. Okay, and you can see I'm inside a Sweet Process, and these are all of our SOPs. We've got like hundreds and hundreds of them for all sorts of things to do Amazon related. Here's the hijacker process, including emails, which means if somebody hijacks our product, this is what we do. So you'll want to use something to organize your SOPs at some point, but at first you can just get started by that single video and then instructions for your VA to create an SOP. And most VAs are versed in how to create actual SOPs. Okay, so back to onlinejobs.ph. I am now logged in, and so let's talk about the actual process after we have our system, after we have our video recorded of what we want the employee to do step by step. Here is where part 2 comes in, and it's super important, so pay close attention. We will have to create what's called a job post in here to create a job post for a t-shirt designer. And keep in mind, there are several plans available in onlinejobs.ph, but take a look at what each of those plans actually does. Okay, so there's the free plan, which you can post up to 3 job posts, and you can also, it takes 2 days to actually approve the job, and then you can view job applications. However, keep in mind you cannot communicate with those workers. And then they have an app called Time Proof, which we'll talk about here in a second, as well as you could pay them too. Now, what I recommend to do is to get a pro account for 1 month, find your Filipino, hire them, and then pretty much I would cancel it because I don't need Time Proof. I'm going to talk about a couple other apps you can use to verify that they're actually doing the work. And I also just pay them via PayPal. So with this $69 plan, you can communicate with the actual people that are responding to the job post. So once we get the job posts and we post the job post, I'm actually going to show you a sample job post that I actually created and I put up there, and then you're going to see a couple of the messages that I got in response. So here is the job post in its entirety. It's very simple, very easy. You'll notice that I put a $400 a month plus negotiable salary. The reason for the high salary is because I wanted a lot of people to respond, and the $400 a month was later explained to people that it was the high end after you were with the company for a set period of time. However, we start out on a trial basis at a much lower rate. So you'll notice that I actually listed it as full-time work. You can do part-time if you want. However, you will get more applicants with full-time. And it says pretty much the summary is the ideal candidate will start off as a t-shirt designer and gradually move into something more challenging positions in the design space. So we're looking for a creative person that follows instruction, but also uses their own creativity to come up with designs. So we want somebody that thinks for themselves and that just isn't dependent on us to provide all the ideas. And again, clearly lay out how much time you want them to work, as well as what actual editing tools you need them to work with. I had Photoshop and Illustrator. They also should be able to communicate English and read instructions. And then we put a basic point here at what we're willing to pay, right? And then we also asked them to submit the resume, samples of work, what the salary requirements are, and an explanation as to why they actually want this job. So keep in mind, you're not only going to get a resume, but you're going to get a bunch of actual t-shirt designs that people already have, and that's great to look through. That's what you will sift through in the next step. And then again, just put out what you want them to do. You want them to speak and write English and have Illustrator, Photoshop, and shirt design experience. And that's pretty much it. Once you actually post that up and it gets approved, you will start to get people to actually apply to the actual job. So if you take a look at this, here are some of the messages that we got. As you can see, there's still 26 in there. This was from quite a while back. This was from 2017. Just like I said, did this over 3 years ago. And you're going to start to notice that there's a number of replies, and basically in each reply they can have a picture, they can state that they will take easy pay, and they have all this other criteria that comes back, as well as how much money they're looking for, what kind of degree they have, how long they've been doing this, and how far they've been verified in the actual system. So they will also state all this kind of interesting information about themselves and they will sometimes often put their resume and other things. So what you have to do now is sift through these job applications. So this is step 2. You now will have to sift through these applications, see what guys or gals you like best, put them down somewhere, write it down, why you like them, etc. And here comes the real super hot, sexy tip. So after you figure out and you narrow this down to, let's say, a handful of candidates, here's what you do and why. This is step 3. With step 3, what you will do is you will create a test job for them to do. So that can be, I want you to design me a shirt that you feel would sell well on Amazon. Be a little bit more specific if you want to. Tell them the specifications of the design. Let them know it's for merch. Let them know the merch specifications. And you will ask them to design this within XYZ amount of time. And that is what you want to give them. And you will pay them for it. Now pay them a little bit more than you regularly would. So like if they're going to design one shirt, I might pay them $5 instead of $2.50, depending on what salary they are looking for, what salary you want to offer them. And I would just want to see what they come back with and what they design. Now, you can be specific and tell them exactly what you want on the shirt and see how their creativity goes and what they actually design. And when you come back, you'll have like 5 to 10 shirts, depending on how many people you actually had on your list of final candidates. Once you get those shirts, look through those shirts, figure out which designs you like best, and then go on to the next step of this process, which is now interviewing each of the candidates. So you can do this either through typing out interview questions back and forth, but I like to do that. And then I like to do a one-on-one Skype call with my last couple of candidates so I can figure out who I like. And once I narrow it down to the final candidate, we go on to the last and final step. I offer them a job at a trial amount. So what do I mean by that? I mean that I'm not going to pay them what they want. I'm not going to pay them what I promise. I'm going to pay them a little bit less until they have this trial period, usually lasting about a month. And during that month, I will make the decision of yes or no, do I want to keep them? And do they have the ability to potentially move up in my company for more difficult graphic artist design jobs and or another job? Like, are they good at something else? A lot of these guys are multi-talented and they're not only used to working in graphic design, but they can do a lot of other stuff. That's why it's important to look at the resume and constantly be thinking, can I use this guy in a number of different jobs? A lot of times you can pick up one Filipino that's good at something you wanted and they'll be able to fill a void on a completely different topic. Like some of them can even be good personal virtual assistants. So again, figure out how they fill that gap in your company. And once you decide on the last one, give them a trial basis. And the last tip is once they get started, make sure you use something like Time Doctor and or Hubstaff to actually track their desktop. Both of these apps will actually take a screenshot of their desktop every couple minutes. And then what you can do is you can log in here and go back and take a look at what they've done. And that's what you want to use if you don't have a project manager and if you just don't actually trust people or trust Filipinos in this case. I personally have an excellent project manager. And the way I usually gauge my employees' work is by figuring out, all right, how many shirts should he be designing based on the past experience that I've had? And I kind of have a number in my head. And if he either hits above or below that, I'll kind of be able to tell whether or not they're trying to game the system. So I kind of look a lot at trust and I look at hiring employees long-term and trusting them and not being kind of constantly looking over their shoulder. However, I can understand if you do want to use Time Doctor and or Hubstaff. Hubstaff is kind of more like clocking in, but it will record certain points on their actual desktop you can use to verify if they've been on there. Again, you don't want to get cheated out on your money, particularly when you're brand new. So I highly and completely agree with you in the beginning especially. Okay, so hopefully that answers all the questions that I've had thus far about how to hire somebody to actually do these designs. I know a lot of people said design was way over their head. Heck, it's way over my head. However, I still can design basics like words on a t-shirt, right? You should be able to learn at least that because you can at least get those for just the cost of your time. However, once you get past that point, then following the steps that I just laid out in this video should get you to the point where you could find a really good graphic designer and then scale up your actual merch store. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, post below and I almost always personally answer those. So I will see you all in the next video.